I don't know if it was B or you, Corey, who did the titles for the segments, but I love them.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague.
And I'm Corey Scott.
For all info on this show, including show notes and subscription links, go to ElseNerds.com. And for other Galactic Network programs, go to gncast.com.
On ElseNerds, we don't think before we talk. You know, you're going to hear some stuff. It might bum you out. It might make you happy. Let's see how it goes. Right along with us, please.
Yes. Yes. So, Corey, how you feeling? You sound better.
I I had a wonderful plethora of maladies last week. It was just one thing after another, just stacking up from post New Year's, which is terrible because I didn't do a damn thing for New Year's. But stomach bug led to back pain, headaches, earaches. It was just all over the place. Couldn't walk for a little bit.
At one point was in a coma.
I wish. According to my Fitbit, I do not sleep.
Yeah. But no, yeah, that was good. And because we originally were going to take Monday off because it was my birthday. I am now 28 years old. And all that, but
and I'm clutching my chest tightly.
Yeah. Yeah, Corey's like, oh, I'm not feeling good. And I'm like, all right, you do you, dude. But yeah, so I mean, it's glad you're better and I'm older, yay. But yeah, so let's get on to the ElseNews. The first news story was what we was going to be our discussion point last week. And that is Geoff Johns is returning to comics. This comes from IO9, and basically Geoff Johns hasn't done anything in the comic universe writing wise since the DC Rebirth 80-page special that he wrote.
The lead-in, right?
Yeah, the lead into Rebirth. And before that, he wrote Justice League. I think he did a couple other books in the New 52 lineup.
But his output was definitely slowing up. It seemed like he was doing less and less not because he wasn't busy, and not because he's not still deeply embedded into the DC Universe stuff. It was more that he was helping do some stuff with the cinematic universe, the TV universe, and he was kind of spearheading DC Rebirth, trying to get things laid out. But he's doing so much outside of the actual comics that it's tough for him to find time to come in and do a regular writing gig.
No, yeah, definitely. And so he, on January 1st, he had these Twitter messages on there, and one said, like, it was his top 5 things of 2017, which I think one of them we might be getting to here in a second. And he said, and 1, writing comics again, stay tuned, Happy New Year. And it had a picture of Dr. Manhattan. So everyone is thinking that he is going to be writing the Watchmen in the DC Rebirth universe.
Which is great, because if you remember the last show that we did, I was talking about what we don't get enough of is Mandong. And Dr. Manhattan was just like, it was just giant blue dong the entire time in the Watchmen movie. I think that's the one thing I can say Zack Snyder got right.
Yes. As you guys know from ElseNerds episode 31, Corey loves Mandong.
So good they made it a title. So there's been a lot of little hints here and there since DC Rebirth, including this Mr. Oz character that everyone has been assuming or presuming is Ozymandias from Watchmen, who's been involved in the Superman books, and I think is in possession of certain characters, including Tim Drake, Robin, who is thought to be dead by the other Batman characters, but it turns out he was captured. Maybe that Ray Palmer is involved in this, a few other people. So what do you think about integrating the Watchmen characters into the DC universe?
I think it's a good idea, because I always look at this from a younger / newer comic book reader perspective. And I think for a lot of that is because for the most part, I am. I mean, I've only come in here, I think, what, a year into the New 52 startup, and when Marvel did Marvel Now, that's when I jumped in and started discovering these comics, and reading, to the point where I'm like, all right, I have 36 comics that I'm reading a week, um, and all that. And so it's going to give, and granted, yes, the reading list for Watchmen, for people who were fans of the movie, or that was the only thing that they had was that movie, is really limited. It is the Watchmen trade paperback.
So you're not counting any of the before Watchmen stuff? If you don't,
well,
I don't know that many people would blame you. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I don't know. Yeah, again, like you said, that there is the before Watchmen stuff, which even then, okay, so there's what, two trade paperbacks, or were they each?
They each had their own. Most of the miniseries were 4 issues or so, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to the quality of them because it wasn't something that was appealing to me, but I'm not a big Watchmen fan. But I know that Amanda Conner did the Silk Spectre series.
Yeah.
I know that Darwin Cook did Minutemen, and I think a different one. So there were some very good people involved in it. And when you have a group of creators, the quality goes up and down. There are some that were looked at as being very successful, and some that were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
There was still a common thought process of what a blatant cash grab on a book that is 20 plus years old, and all this does is to serve to keep offering Alan Moore a dick on a platter and saying, hey, choke this down, Alan. And Alan's like, I fucking hate comics, and I'm going to cast a spell on all of you motherfuckers. I don't know that it was seen as a huge success.
Yeah. And
the issues definitely seemed to sit on the shelves, and then the product came out with the collections, and I don't know, the collection sold very well. Like, I don't think people were looking to restock them if they sold.
yeah. What was the one? It was when Watchmen was coming out originally, it was the backup story.
The pirate story that was
Yeah.
in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was all in one book. It was
Well, no,
it was
because
totally
I want to say that one might have been the one that was the biggest seller out of in the before Watchmen stuff.
like more of that. I don't really remember what the different individual ones were. I know that there were ones about like some of the villain characters,
Yeah.
and all of the main characters had theirs. But it's a lead into something that, like, we always talk about things like, I don't always know that the lead-ins are that important. On the other hand, I enjoyed Rogue One, knowing where it was going, but I hated the prequels because I feel like that all it did was it took the mystery and the good parts away from Star Wars. And when it comes to before Watchmen, all you can do is a before, because there isn't a lot to work with after.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anybody was really screaming for that, because Watchmen itself is this seminal work that is hugely beloved. Even if it's not my favorite, I understand that it's a cornerstone of comics, but it's also from the middle of the 80s. It's 30 years old now. It's kind of had more than its time, and the only reason why it keeps bopping around is because they want to keep it in perpetual print to disallow the rights to ever go back to Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, sorry. And it's just, I don't know that with all the goodwill of what's happened with DC Rebirth, which is more focused stories, which is getting back to the characters in their more perceived classic state, even including changes, having there be a son of Superman and Lois Lane now, but it feels like Superman again, as opposed to the New 52 Superman, who felt like a different character. I think that a lot of people are really digging the current DC books, and part of that also is that they've priced them to allow people to experiment and try them out. The every 2 week shipping on most of the titles means that you can kind of like stay along with it really quick. I don't know that it's necessary to then have a Watchmen integration, especially because all of the Watchmen characters were based around the Charleston characters that DC actually owns. So when you have a Dr. Manhattan, that's at the same time you have Captain Atom. When you have a Night Owl, well, you have Blue Beetle. So I don't know exactly what it is to be gained from this, other than it's just like it was an explanation. It was like, we're doing this in the background to explain why the universe is like this. Yeah, but when you did the stuff in the background to explain why the universe was like that in the New 52, it was Pandora, and then you involved the Question, who is the Rorschach basis, and you involved the Phantom Stranger, and those books tanked because there was no good plan with them. So this is trying to sell an idea still based off of Alan Moore's stuff from 30 years ago. And I don't know that anybody really wants to see these characters wind up in DC proper. We like an expanded universe. We like the multiverse. I don't want Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias hanging out with Superman and Batman. It's kind of, they're lucky in how well it's worked having Midnighter in the mainstream DC universe by making kind of a foil to Dick Grayson for a bunch of issues. But Midnighter and Apollo were introduced to be a gay couple version of Batman and Superman. And when you take them out of the Wildstorm universe and put them in the regular DC universe, you kind of have to downplay those two characters because you can't have them be at the same level of Batman and Superman in that world. Where it used to be that's the power level that they were. That's exactly what they did. They were kind of even tougher versions in a lot of ways. So some things don't belong in the regular DC universe. And I don't know that this is necessary. There was so much good already there that it's just like Geoff Johns likes to do his little Easter egg hunts. And so he's like, hey, I'm going to show Batman, and he's going to find the Watchman badge in his cave wall for some reason. Made no fucking sense. And here's Wally, and we have to explain why Wally came into the universe and nobody remembers him. Okay, sure, I can get some of that, but this is kind of a weird thing to draw into it for me.
Yeah, and I should point out, and this is after doing a little bit of research while Corey was talking, that there hasn't been any updates to this. Like all people are going off of is the tweet that Geoff Johns posted on New Year's Day. And again, there it was a series of tweets, like a top 5 list of the things he's most excited for 2017. I believe one of them that was up there was Wonder Woman. And then there was like a new CW TV show, which we'll get to here in a second. And then N1 writing comics again. Stay tuned. Happy New Year, with a picture of Dr. Manhattan. Like just his face.
Video has made some comments as well of like the Watchmen crossover and stuff, and it's a matter of if that's 100% true or if they're just kind of like leading people on. But the stuff is planted. I mean,
yeah. It is one of the things that Geoff Johns had stated, that there is planned like a longer plan for bringing in the Watchmen for something. So whether it's something like what we had in the first year with New 52 with Forever Evil, where you had the crime syndicate come over into this earth, where it's just like a boom, they're in, and then they get defeated and they go back sort of deal, or it is a, you know, they are now fully involved sort of thing. I honestly I don't know, but
I mean, there's two thoughts. One is that doing the Watchmen or having the Watchmen be the lead-in for Rebirth, because the Watchmen kind of is what killed classic comic book characters to begin with. The last 30 years has been spent trying to emulate the ideals introduced in The Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Those two stories, those seminal stories, really painted the backdrop for what DC Comics in particular became for so long. And everything's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do this, just like those two books, and just milk them to death. And I think that what Geoff Johns was doing by having things bounce off of Watchmen at the beginning of Rebirth was to say, hey, we've had 30 years of Watchmen. Now let's show you what comics were like before that, because he's a classic guy. You know,
Yeah.
he's a Bronze Age fan himself, and that's why he wanted to do things like bring back Hal Jordan. He wants to have everybody's Green Lantern, and he wants to have everybody's Green Arrow, not just like, oh well, there's in my day it was this guy, so it's got to be this guy. He brings back Barry Allen, and yeah, they fucked up and they took out Wally for a while, but now we've got Wally back. I miss Bart. I'd like to see Bart back as Impulse or whoever. But it's still, I get that he is inclusive, not like
Yeah.
one or the other kind of thing. On the other hand, there are things that Rebirth kind of led us to believe that still haven't happened. And I'm much more interested in seeing the Justice Society come back.
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in seeing the Legion of Superheroes come back. You know, give us something to do with those characters, and maybe they spring out of this. Maybe that's what happens. I can certainly see a Mystery Men type aesthetic working side by side with what the ideas were of Watchmen, which was a 80s version of the Mystery Men. But that's what JSA can work on. And if you want to get into space cosmic stuff, yeah, you can do some stuff with the Legion there too. If Dr. Manhattan exists across all time, then it makes sense that time travel would involve the Legion of Superheroes. I'm not rushing to get this, but I'm not really reading comics right now anyway. So
Yeah. No, yeah,
I
this
hope
was
it's
more of
not like a lot of build up to bullshit.
no, same here. Same here. And this is what I mean, I've on the Marvel side, this is what it was with Secret Wars 2. This is what I was hoping it wasn't going to be with Civil War, and I didn't get that, which is I'm so grateful. Um and it seems like, and with DC, with a couple of their other events, it's like, all right, this is sort of like you're promising the moon, but delivering me a moon rock on my bed.
I mean, DC at least has been playing very, very softly in the event category.
Yeah.
After Rebirth, we haven't seen an event up until now. They're doing a crossover between Justice League and Suicide Squad, which is pretty much contained to just those books.
Yeah, it's and I've read the first 2 issues, and it seems like it's going to be those 2 books, and then I think maybe 4 more, like from like a Batman book, as like just but more as just in tie-ins, not like how that usually is. And like, oh, it's September, it's our big villains month where the villains are taking over the comic books, and shit like that. On the same side though, I've like I don't want to get my hopes up too high about this. Like, would it be cool? Yeah. You know, should they do it? I don't know, because where they do still have the rights, it does seem like they are just doing this to continue to have the rights, so they can just go to Alan Moore, go nah, nah, and all that.
Yeah, I gotta think at some point everybody who wants Watchmen is gonna fucking own it, and then it'll just have to stop being printed.
Yeah.
And then what happens then is Alan Moore, if he's at all fucking interested at all by that point, he gets to do Watchmen 2, or he gets to do something with the characters, and that's what'll matter. Is that as much as they were derivative of the Charleston characters, and was originally supposed to star those characters, it's a big deal if Alan Moore is doing it. It's not as big of a deal if anybody else is doing it. No matter how good those people are, nobody really cares about these characters unless it's Alan Moore writing.
Yeah, exactly. So our next story is one that I saw and I got excited for. And this is that Constantine is returning to TV. To TV, and if you're watching the video, I'm using air quotes around there. because in 2017 the show is being brought to the CW Seed. Um, Sorry if that pause right there got you a little excited, but there will be 5 episodes, each of them about 6 to 10 minutes long, that have been ordered. And Matt Ryan, who played the live action Constantine, will be back to voice the character. And then we will also get Greg Berlanti will be the executive producer. I mean, and as the article puts it here, because he's not already, it's not like he's already, not the executive producer on, the other 4 CW shows, Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, that he's already doing. Plus, I believe he's still doing, he's an executive producer on Blind Spot and a few other shows that aren't on CW. So yeah, the dude apparently just doesn't want to sleep. But yeah, so this is pretty cool. And as a bonus, all 13 episodes of the live action Constantine series show that aired on NBC will continue to be available or will be brought back to the CW Seed. And the show joins animated series Vixen in its second season. And yes, this is the same Vixen that appears in live action live action on Arrow. And then
Not the
also,
Vixen that's showing up in Legends of Tomorrow right now.
Yeah. And then also slated to debut on the CW Seed is Freedom Fighters The Ray, specifically the modern version of the character, not the Golden Age version, aka Happy Terrell. The Ray will also be openly gay, which is a first for an animated series lead. So
now, am I wrong? Is Matt Ryan also playing Constantine in the Justice League Dark animated film?
Yes, he is. He is voicing that for the Justice League Dark animated film, which I believe comes out soon. It's the next movie for the DC animated movie lineup.
So is that confusing at all? In that the Justice League Dark film has characters like Batman in it, but then the same Constantine goes over to Arrow from this show, and there is no Batman in that universe so far. Or is it just too much to read into it because fuck continuity?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Because I mean, here, this is, well, I don't know, because it's a little bit tricky because I'm looking at the cast list right now on Wikipedia for Justice League Dark, where you do have John Constantine, you have Batman, Zatanna, Deadman, Etrigan the Demon, Felix Faust, Destiny, Swamp Thing. But then you have a few other people in here who are a little bit more familiar, shall we say? Like I already mentioned Batman, but you also have Jerry O'Connell doing Superman, Rosario Dawson voicing Wonder Woman. The same actor who is voicing Swamp Thing is also voicing John Stewart Green Lantern. So yeah, out of all of those, the main Justice League characters, I believe I only recognize one as being in the DC universe or the Arrowverse shows. And we also have another problem with that because he's in the other universe. He's over in the little pocket world with Supergirl. So if you really wanted to get super technical, super tricky, yeah, it could get a little confusing.
I mean, I'm mostly talking shit because it really doesn't matter. The viewership of both, honestly, the viewership for the DC animated universe stuff itself isn't super high, and isn't expected to have crossovers with the live action shows. And I'm sure that the viewership for the CWC is probably even lower, although that's not to comment on the quality, and it doesn't really fucking matter. It's cool. It's cool that Matt Ryan, who was Constantine on screen, gets to continue playing Constantine, crossing over to the Arrow universe, and then doing the animated series and getting to do the animated movie. I like that. That's like Kevin Conroy being Batman in as many fucking cartoon incarnations as possible. I'm loving that he's on Justice League Action, even if not all the other voices are played by people who played the characters in Justice League before.
Yeah. The what I would say is, because this, for again going back to the Justice League Dark film, they had the story was done by Ernie Altbacker, who also wrote the screenplay, and J.M. DeMatteis. So it's one of those things, like if they could get great writers doing this as well, then I have no problem with that. Doing the CWC shows. And the other part I would add is, with maybe we could keep getting, Constantine popping up over in Arrow or Flash or Legends, whenever there's a more mystical side of things
Well, it
because
is
of this.
interesting that the CW online is going to get the rights to play the Constantine show, which was on NBC. So
Yeah.
it's cool that those rights
I
kind
want to
of
say
fell
they've
onto
had
them.
that.
But
I want to
that's
say they've had
interesting because
yeah.
it was an NBC show. I'm surprised it's not an NBC. It's not that they're doing any online catalog. It would just wind up sitting in your Comcast uh, on demand stuff. But good that that happened, because maybe that means that somewhere down the road, the rights, because they belong to Warner Brothers, do kind of fall in, and we do get to see more Constantine and maybe more of his universe that was introduced in the CW universe somehow.
Yeah.
With the deal worked out with Supergirl and how that seems to be working for them, it could be that this is the potential for the next thing. A lot of those characters that were in the Justice League Dark animated film, it wouldn't take a lot to get them on TV. I mean, Swamp Thing has had his own show and movie and cartoon series before. So we know that if we could do that in the 80s, like we did a Flash show in the 80s, then there's no reason why it can't come back in the 2000 teens. It could work if we had a Justice League Dark TV series, because it would probably work easier than having a Justice League proper TV series,
Yeah.
even with the introduction of Superman to the DC TV universe. So many fucking initials, man. It's just tough.
The what I will say with that though is, it does seem like it seems like a smart decision, because you're also getting, much like with Marvel's the Marvel movies side of things, where it wasn't until really Doctor Strange that we really got into magic
Mm-hmm.
in there. I think this is they're sort of playing, borrowing an idea from them. DC and Greg Berlanti and all them guys are doing with this. It's where it's like, okay, we're going to use Constantine, since that's been the biggest success that we've had, in modern history. Granted, I mean, it's really only the one that they've done. But there was a big fan reaction to Matt Ryan as Constantine, mainly because Neo cannot play Constantine. um, I'm not bitter
Don't
at
put it
all.
past Keanu. Keanu can do a lot of goddamn things. Of course, none
Yeah.
of this is going to matter at all if, say, for instance, because I mean they've all gone to pot. I just have to assume that all of the CW superhero shows are going to be canceled after this season, correct?
Why, sir, you are wrong.
How does
Um,
that happen?
at what was it? The over the holiday break, all the CW put out a press release with the news that the Flash, Arrow, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl were all renewed for the 2017-2018 television series. And along with those shows, the CW also renewed Crazy Ex-Girlfriend for a third season, Jane the Virgin for a fourth season, and Supernatural for a 13th season. Holy freaking cow. This is the only show on the CW that predates the CW.
That's well, trying to think.
This is the only show
I mean,
on the
there were shows that crossed over that came from other networks, like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Suck
but
it!
was it on
Ah!
UPN or WB?
No, that's it, because it had a actual fucking audience.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
what I mean by the whole supernatural thing. Like, we're not seeing the 15th season of Rock Me Baby, because that show was shit, even though I loved it. um we don't still see the what would have been like what 25th episode or season of Smallville if it was still going now.
I mean, I was the Buffy follower. I brought them over.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is pretty cool. I mean, for people who are enjoying, like this guy, I'm still enjoying the superhero shows. Um, and especially with the DC stuff, I've given up on Batman on Gotham. So it's like I don't even consider that one to be a thing.
That's
I
not
quit.
even a DC show. That
Yeah,
is just someone fucked around and said, "Oh, look, can we use everything in the Batman universe except for Batman? You know, all the stuff that would be cool if we had a guy dressed up as a bat in it, but somehow you take him out and it's not."
yeah. I'll be how pissed you're gonna be if they have an episode where Jim Gordon gets an Iron Man style suit.
I don't give a shit. That is exactly what I expect from that piece of crap. I don't give a goddamn what they do with that show.
Yeah, but no, I mean, but in all honesty, I mean, I look at this and it it does alleviate a little bit of worry that I had because there was a blog post a while back ago that said that Legends of Tomorrow, because it's coming to Tuesdays when it comes back, it could be on its last leg. And that they were doing this for iZombie and for apparently also for Riverdale.
Both of which have not been renewed yet. I mean, Riverdale hasn't even hit the air yet, as far as I know.
Yeah,
And iZombie hasn't started its new season yet.
correct.
So it makes sense that they haven't been renewed. But that's the thing, is that you get the whole kit and caboodle of all of these shows at once got the renewal.
Yeah.
And I assume with that comes contracts for some of the characters that do the crossovers, like John Barrowman and Wentworth Miller, that were going across multiple series.
Yeah, John Barrowman, Wentworth Miller, Dum Dum Dugan, Damien Dark, Neil McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was one more. Stein. I think they all have what I will just call Arrowverse contracts, where they are not show specific,
Right?
but they are. But so I mean, I could possibly see more going to that. And honestly, I think this is good because all these shows, this is a good, interesting problem that the CW has with all these superhero shows, and a lot of the show or some of the shows hint at potential spin-offs. And it's like, well, we're not at the point where we're going to end Arrow to do a spin-off of, Speedy or Wild Dog or, whoever.
Well, the thing is that the characters that are all the secondary characters on Arrow could easily go over to a show like Legends of Tomorrow, because that's got a revolving cast anyways. You have 40 fucking speedsters running around on Flash. I'm sure any other show could take one of them off their hands. It's kind of my thing with I am not in a happy place with the DC superhero shows. This season has been tough for me, and it may be that it's just too much of a good thing.
Yeah,
it may be that because they all feel the same, because they are from the same creators. They're all pretty reliant on the same tropes over and over again. The time travel thing has just burnt me out, and the fact that it's going through 2 series at the same time, and then it's introducing elements into other series, like, oh, where the fuck did this other Laurel come from on Arrow? I don't know, fucking time travel shit happened. I'm not really excited about it, and because it's the same plots again and again and again. Like, here's some super speedster that's just as fast or faster than Barry that wants to prove to him that he's the best, and talks with some weird voice and shit, so you don't know who it is, but it's somebody that you fucking know because they're in the same room the whole time. I just, Jesus Christ, 3 seasons of that. Okay. I think that if it was 1 or 2 shows, there's so much to mine. But when you're trying to do 4 shows and when you're trying to do CW Seed animated series and things, then it kind of becomes like just spread out too much to be good,
Well,
which is weird because the comics can do it, but the comics can be more individualized. The comics
yeah.
come with a different art style, they come with a different writing style because they're coming from different people, and these things are all kind of homogenized to be similar. That's what TV wants. TV wants the same. TV audiences want the same. And I get that. It's just that after a while, it's too much to keep up with for things that don't seem to vary enough to remain interesting to me.
Yeah. I will add though that the CW Seed shows are only 5 to 6 episodes long.
Yeah,
and even then
they're short episodes. They're like 10 minutes at best.
and they're, you know, it's maybe like an hour length altogether. But no, yeah, so I mean this is an interesting thing to have happen. You know, with all the shows getting renewed, and we'll probably see, you know, in 4 months, you know, other shows getting renewed. I will point out also, or I will add that not on the list are shows like Frequency and No Tomorrow, that were new shows that came out, you know, in the fall. So I don't want to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but
I think I heard that No Tomorrow was gone.
yeah, that's the first. And I don't know about Frequency, but Frequency didn't seem like it didn't catch my eye at all. I'll put it to you that way, but it didn't seem like it was going to be, it had that potential to last, mainly because it seems like they were taking a premise from a movie and trying to stretch it out.
Yeah, and I've got to say that for me personally, the most exciting, although I haven't watched this season just because too much TV, I can't do it. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend coming back for a 3rd season. Man, Rachel Bloom just is such an amazing actress, writer, creator, and the whole ensemble cast is phenomenal on that show. And it is different from anything else that they have going. Oh, I'm sure.
As a person who's watched this second season so far, holy cow! I got mad at myself that I forgot that it premiered. This is almost made when that happened. I'm like, wait, I got episodes I got to catch up on. Gosh, if only I did a segment on a podcast where I talked about shows that were leaving and premiering. Gosh. But no, I mean, and this gets me every time. And there's a part of me in the back of my head, I'm like, they have like 22 different versions of the intro because they redid the intro. It's not the Weird Al sounding song. It's a whole new song. And in the first episode, they explain it, like why they have this song. But but basically at the end they have like these Vegas showgirl style who are holding hearts, and the hearts form together to make Josh's face with a bigger heart. And then it cuts to a picture of that, and then Rachel Bloom's character just goes bam and through her head, and she just stands there like smiling every time, and it holds so long. And I'm like, is this it? Is it gonna go? Is it gonna freeze? Come on, go. And I swear it's different links every time because I'm like, blink, damn it, blink.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She is absolutely brilliant, and that show is brilliant. And like I said, it's a show I'm upset that I haven't been able to watch, but I'm definitely going to catch up on one point. And I'm just excited that it's getting the love, that people are seeing it and enjoying it, and that it's getting recognition. And it got, I think, an Emmy or something in the first season. It did really well.
Got a Golden Globe in the first season.
Yep.
Yeah. But the other thing, I don't know if this one was, I know it's with the CW shows where it's only like, what, 3 weeks after they finish airing on the CW, they will premiere on Netflix.
Oh, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I remember. I think we talked about that in an earlier episode. If I was a brilliant editor like at Marvel Comics or DC Comics, I would have the little annotation thing at the side, see episode whatever of ElseNerds. But I wonder if that would expand to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, because then you would only have to wait, until, you know, middle of June, beginning of July.
That would be great.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that is it for the Else News. We will be right back. And we are back, and it is time for ElseViews. Corey renamed all the segments, and I'm loving this. But this used to be the Nerding Out segment, but this is basically the section where we talk about a TV show, movie, game, music, or whatever nerdy thing we want to talk about in depth. I'm gonna go first with one, and if Corey, if you don't have something, I got backups.
Actually, that's the thing is I knew exactly what you were going to talk about with this one. I watched the first episode of this. I have not seen the second one yet, so don't be a dick.
Nope.
Oh, you can. That's right. We say at the beginning that we're dicks. So, sure, go ahead.
So this one, it's well, first off, I'm gonna say I fucking called it the last episode. On a side little thing about the Mick, the pilot was almost like a shot for shot remake of Sons of Tucson. The second episode sort of redeemed itself a little bit, but it's like, this is just Sons of Tucson with Caitlin Olsen as opposed to Tyler Labine.
Which itself sounds like an improvement. No offense. I mean, some offense, maybe a little bit to Tyler, but Caitlin Olsen is a badass.
Yeah,
she is a comedy fucking mastermind, and she comes from a troop of them in Always Sunny. But even on her own, like anything I've seen her in, she's just amazing.
But no, I just wanted to point that out before we got into our nerding out of Sherlock season 4, or as Alan Cumming says it on Masterpiece, Sherlock. But yeah, so the first 2 episodes have aired so far.
Everything sounds better when you're Cummings,
not Goings.
No.
But the first 2 episodes are out. The first episode of the season was called the 6 Thatchers. I almost said the 2 Thatchers. We lost 4 of them. And then the second episode was the Lying Detective. And I want to get your opinion on the 6 Thatchers.
In what regard?
Because I've heard a lot of people, and actually before I watched the second episode, I actually tuned to PBS a little early and saw a behind the scenes thing on the first episode. And it talked, I had seen a lot of people talk about the fact that, like, oh, this is the more James Bond and not Sherlock Holmes.
All right. So first of all, let's reestablish, like we do at the beginning, this is going to be spoilery. And I'm saying in particular about this episode because heavy shit goes down in this episode. So if you have not seen it, if you watch Sherlock and you're just like, oh, I haven't gotten to this one yet, or you're like me and you go, is BBC or PBS or ABC, Another Bad Creation, Belle Biv DeVoe, just whatever your boy process is. If you haven't watched it yet, you're probably gonna wanna skip over the ElseViews right now to go see at least the first one. And Sherlock, the episodes we know they're like mini movies anyways, but they are continuity in the fact that it matters that you see them in order. It matters because there is a through point for all of them as it goes along. You are growing with these characters. They are changing. They are learning. They are suffering. All of these things do happen in a respect that coincides with how the story lands. But when you watch an episode, it's like having seen another film. So by the time you get to this point, it's like watching the Harry Potter films. You know, you're 9 films in or whatever, and you've got a feeling for these characters. And so when shit happens to them, now we're at 10. But when shit happens to them, it's a big effect on you as a viewer and as a fan. So again, just to warn you, we're going to talk this out.
Yes. And I have to say the through point, you hit that on the head. Because where the six Thatchers, and I'm being vague on it now, more for the effect of we haven't talked about it yet, but the end of the six Thatchers is essentially the beginning of the lying detective. And what I will say right now, also as a broad generality, is the lying detective is a, I would almost say, a perfect mashup of classic Sherlock Holmes and Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes. And I'm gonna leave it at vague like that. But I want to hit her first on the six Thatchers, because this was also, in my opinion, a great send off for Mary Watson. Um, and this, with this story, you come in and you know nothing about this. You just know people are smashing um busts of Margaret Thatcher. The
Well, back up for a second, because when we come in, and
Oh,
they do reestablish that, so they skip over a lot of the stuff that happened in the special. I guess it was a holiday special that
yeah,
happened fucking 2 years ago now. Um,
that was last year.
but was it last? It seems like it was longer than that. Um, but they
But
kind of
the Christmas special.
they pick up more where they left off at the end of the last season or series,
Yes.
when where Sherlock kills the guy with the mind castle and shit, and goes away, and then they bring him back and they kind of excuse him of it because Moriarty has returned in some way. And so a lot of the opening is the idea of Sherlock preparing to meet the challenge of Moriarty and going through the motions of all these other cases and stuff he's supposed to solve. So they kind of like, they introduce the idea that the Moriarty thing is going to happen, and he's mentally prepping himself, and he's trying to just wait it out by solving all these various cases, and that's what leads into this case of the six Thatchers.
Yes. So forget what brought it on. It was a kidnapping. What was suspected to be a kidnapping at first. Or no, murder.
It was a murder. It was
Yeah.
it was a random murder that they couldn't figure out. Dead body found in a car that had been dead for a week.
Yep.
When they had just seen the car was empty, and the person was supposed to be in another country. It was supposed to be in Tibet.
Yeah. And so Sherlock comes in and he notices, with his brilliant minds of deduction, that the mom has OCD, and there is a big spot missing on this nightstand or table that is basically a tribute to Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of England and the first female Prime Minister of England. And they point out that, yeah, there was a bust of her that got busted. Ha ha ha. And we later find out that going back to the last series, or season, I will switch between these because, doing a British podcast for a while, you get stuck in your head. If it airs in Britain, it's called a series. But you learn that Mary was in this like special forces get up, and it does more backstory with them, with the AGRA. And you have, I mean, just this brilliant storytelling about her, and I wish I would have caught sooner her demise. Put it here, spoiler, she dies at the end. But it because, like, looking back at it now, it makes sense, but then I'm just like, this is great storytelling. What the fuck sort of thing.
Yeah, so we go through the rigmarole of Sherlock trying to solve this case, and in like walking in and already knowing the answer to the case, but finding another mystery that he assumes is the Moriarty leading him on to the bigger thing. He starts following this whole other thing down the rabbit hole and kind of dismissing the family who just realized that their son is dead, because he's far more interested in this thing with the six Thatchers, which is basically Thatcher heads bus being broken and randomly and trying to figure out why. Um, and what we find out is that it actually has nothing to do with Moriarty at all. It leads into the problem of Mary's background of being a spy assassin, and on her last mission, her team all being what she thought was killed. One of them escapes from where they were all held and tortured and has assumed that she was a double agent and is coming after her accordingly. So we go through the things. Probably one of the just most brilliant Sherlockian things is Mary drugs Sherlock, goes into hiding, like uses dice to randomly choose where she's going to go, how she's going to move around, what she's going to do to keep everything off of her trail. And she just like, she disguises herself as old lady on a plane. Then she knocks out a stewardess and disguises herself as the stewardess, gets documents, stuff she has planted in one of her safe places, uses that, goes just like across oceans, through the deserts, everything you can think of, walks into this place in what I'm assuming is probably like Tibet or something. Then there's Sherlock sitting there.
It was Morocco, I thought.
Morocco, yes. And there's Sherlock sitting there having tea with somebody, and she's like, how the hell did you find me? And he like gives this long explanation of like, no, there's 40 billion ways that I could figure out how to do it. And then he's like, but actually what I did is I put a tracer on the on the flash drive that you had. And it's just so perfect. It's just, she walks in, she sees him, and she's like, what the fuck? And just he just cuts her off. And that is like a great moment because it shows the humor and it shows the relationship between him and Mary. And what a lot of this episode is that Sherlock has had to fake his own death before. And in the last series that they had, Sherlock had to adjust to Mary's relationship with John Watson. And it leads from them first dating to getting closer, and Mary and Sherlock getting to know each other. And then the reveal after their wedding of who Mary actually is. And Sherlock has made a promise to protect her at all costs, protect her and John at all costs. And now they have a child and protecting that baby at all costs. So it shows the humanity that Sherlock has, even though he's still standoffish. He's grown as a person when it comes to the people that matter to him.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a huge portion of what this story does, is that it's not as much about the mystery. It's about the journey of Sherlock's growth as a person and the relationship between John and Mary and what's going on there, because they are experiencing not the low point of a relationship, but they are going through the times where it's not necessarily fun and exciting anymore. You know, John's used to running around with Sherlock, but now he's got a baby and they have responsibilities. So he and his wife often don't get to see each other. And when they do, it's in passing the baby on to each other so that they can both go out and do their things, be it helping solve crimes or whatever. And so, and this was a tough part of this episode, is we see John start to stray.
Yeah.
We see John not being as totally enamored with his life with Mary, who he truly loves.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely does. And I think that leads into part of why he reacts in the way he does to Sherlock at the end, is he reacts to Sherlock basically saying how he failed them, how he promised to protect them. But I think his anger is really more at himself, because while he's sitting there and he's seeing this woman that he loves and he would have given anything to save in that moment die in his arms, and he can't do anything about it, he also knows that while she's telling him how he was everything to her and how the only reason that she could even see existing is her happiness in being Mary Watson, he's thinking about the fact that he pretty much cheated on her. I don't know if it's established that he actually went all the way with it, but even when he started to break it off, he saw the woman that he was trying to break it off with, and then they kind of continued. And even if not in the act, in just the thoughts, in just the pursuit, in just the allowances, he was cheating on her. And that's
they do hit on that in the second episode, where it was only texts.
Okay. But
but but still, it was, you're hitting it on the head. Even though it was only texts, it was there is a lot of regret, and this you do see in the second episode. You see him having a lot of regret in the fact that where it was only text messages, he wasn't 100% faithful to Mary. Where here she was faithful enough to tell him her real name, to tell him everything she had done and all that, to give him the "this is my life, this is what I've done" device, and him to trust at that time, just to trust her enough just to throw it in the fire like we saw last in series 3. um he felt like he didn't quite live up to that.
yeah. Now
No.
the other thing is it's an inside baseball thing. It's not something that I want to think too much about, but there is the aspect that Martin Freeman and Amanda Ablington had been married for 15 years and they ended their marriage
Mhm.
this past year. Presumably they were already in the midst of that when this was being filmed, and it's not like this caused Mary's character to be killed, because we know from the books, we know from the history of the John Watson character that he's been married multiple times. That there was not just one woman in his life in the book, so they can follow that into this series and show reasons why he would be with different people. But it is kind of a weird reflection to see them having broken up in real life and then see her character leave the series suddenly at the same time. It feels like it might be harsh, even if it's not.
Yeah. um so the what I will say about the second episode, and I am going to be kind to Corey, mainly because the discovery of how things went I enjoyed. um the second episode does kick off, and you hit it on the head earlier with um in the spoiler tag warning stuff, that Sherlock is one of them shows that has, where it's not episodic, or it is episodic. It's not like Black Mirror where you can come in at any episode and watch whatever episodes you want. um it's one of those, there are through lines throughout here. They've set up that through line. And it's one of those, it's one of the things I love about Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss with their writing, from seeing them from Doctor Who over to this, where they play the long con. They will set something up here to where you're like, wait, did they reshoot that? I'm thinking of with Doctor Who for the 50th anniversary special, where they're pulling at stuff that I swear they pulled up stuff from when Stephen Moffat was just a writer during the David Tennant era, not the showrunner. And I'm like, has he been setting this up this whole time? Is he God? Sort of thing. and um but and so that continued here. The one thing that I will get back with you, or that I will swing back on though real quick, is how did you feel about the fight scenes in the Six Thatchers?
I felt a couple of things. One is, I mean, if you're going off of modern Sherlock Holmes, we saw in the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock films how he utilized his skills to be able to have a quarrel with somebody, get into a skirmish where he measures things out. It even made it into the epic rap battles of history of Sherlock Holmes versus Batman, which is still one of the best things ever. When we also have to understand that there's a establishment of, at this point in time, Sherlock has been in physical danger enough times that it makes a certain degree of sense that he would up his game when it comes to that. He would be able to defend himself, protect himself. And I don't think he did anything that was so totally out of character with him. It wasn't like he was doing James Bondian things where he was like leaping over moving cars
Yeah.
and picking up guns and being a crack marksman, which it almost seems like he should. I think it was just enough, but it was a quick fight, but it was a hard fight, and he was fighting somebody who was apparently very skilled.
Yeah.
But again, observations and reaction times are what Sherlock is about. When he sees how you move towards him, he notices things out of the corner of his eye and says, "Oh, there's something not right over that table," by what's missing as opposed to what's there. That's what he does. So I get how they utilize in this. It just, I can see why it would be off-putting, because we've gotten to the assumption that he's a very cerebral character, and that's how we perceive him overall.
He is, and I'm going to quote something from Mark Gatiss in the behind the scenes stuff that they aired before The Lying Detective. In the novels, Sherlock is an accomplished boxer. Sherlock is an accomplished fencer.
Yep.
So what I took with that is sort of going, what would prevent Sherlock, a modern day, living in 2017 Sherlock, what would prevent him from learning, various martial arts techniques like Krav Maga or, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai, or, how to be a marksman with a gun, to where it might look, I'm going to say it anyways. I don't know if it's this one, if it's for the second episode, I apologize, but where he's able to pull off shooting a gun crazily. I'm realizing this is the second episode, to where people are like, what is going on? What is he going to hit me? And him able to be like, I know you're there. I'm still shooting the gun because I know it's going to go here, not here.
Right. So, and that's the thing, is it seems like something that he would do strictly to show off. It seems like something he would do just to have people react like, how the hell can you do that? I'm fucking Sherlock Holmes. Have you not been paying attention? I just look at me. Look at the coat. Yeah. I'm Sherlock. That's
exactly. And so I will say, for The Lying Detective, I loved it. It is. I think Sherlock early on had the thing of, first episode is great, middle episode was a little blah. Third episode was
middle
great.
Episode feels like, because it's usually the first episode is setting up for the season, the last episode is the payoff for the season, so the middle episode is not necessarily a filler episode, but it's not going to give you that throughput story getting done. But I don't think they're ever weak, and the fact is that there's only 3 episodes ever in a season, so it's not like you're waiting a long time to get to that last one.
It's I probably shouldn't say weak. I'd say the weaker of the 3.
It's not looked at with the same degree of importance, because 1 and 3 are usually where they land. Yeah. I since I haven't seen the second one, I can't say what the comparison is, but I know that a lot has been made about the actor who's playing the presumed villain in that, and what kind of characters he's playing.
Yeah,
and that it seems like they're not holding back on the second episode in this.
No, yeah, that's exactly actually what I was going to say. Is it didn't seem like this is going to be the weaker episode of them.
Now, on the other hand, though, you can't say that the importance of the first episode isn't a big deal. But it's strange, because we've only had, in a final turn, 5 episodes of Mary.
Yeah.
We had the 3 in the last season, and then we had a bit of her in the special as some as herself and some not as herself. And, this episode here. So Mary's story, it feels like she's been a part of it for far longer, but that's because there's only been, now 12 episodes. It's kind of weird, because it feels like it's been so long for her. It feels like it's been so long for them. It feels like a very dense amount of story. It is, but a lot of it is because there's just so long in between seasons, and they're short.
Yeah, it's I don't know. What I will say with the second episode is it doesn't quite it's really great. It is really cerebral. Um it I said it earlier, it is the perfect combination of the classic Sherlock Holmes, like going from the books Sherlock Holmes, but putting on the um the the Benedict Cumberbatch, this is the beginning of the season twist to it. The beginning of the show twist, with Study in Pink. Um they do have uh, this is minor, but they do have Sherlock doing drugs in here, but how that pays off, you're like, wait, what? Why? Oh my gosh, this dude is freaking crazy, but in a good way. Sort of deal. But yeah, so I mean, that being said, I cannot wait for this Sunday with the third episode in this season. Um,
Yeah, it almost sucks to like. We want to tell people because this is something that we both watch. We're very excited to watch. Um, but then there's only 3 episodes, and it's not like we come back next week and we could talk about the last episode. Because it's just like it's 2 weeks of straight Sherlock. That's it. Sherlock podcast coming to you once every 4 years on Galactic Network.
yeah. But no, yeah. So check that out. Sherlock airs at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on PBS, and then it airs, I believe, at the same time, 9 or 10, on BBC One in the UK. Wherever else, figure it out. So real quick, because we did talk a lot about that, but I wanted to hit another nerding out just so we have the balance there. And it's a comic book, because I've been reading comic books. Actually, I got two of them. One is a series, Civil War II. I hit it in the news segment, and I want to touch base on it here. Um, so Civil War II was written by Brian Michael Bendis, and they finished.
Want to call that writing? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just teasing.
No, it's. I mean, it's an interesting premise here that I don't think the ramifications were all that great. Um, so to start this off, there is a new Inhuman that is um that has emerged, named Ulysses, who has the ability to quote unquote predict the future. How he does that is sort of determined by the information that is coming to him, um, and all that. So two sides get brought up. Tony Stark wants to protect the future, um, by not using by not using Ulysses' powers, because he feels like it's only a possibility. And this is getting too much like Minority Report, and I think they even mentioned Minority Report numerous times throughout the main book and the
Call out the thing you're ripping off. Always a
yeah.
smart idea to do that in a story.
But and then Captain Marvel wants to utilize Ulysses to bring um to protect, to basically do Minority Report, to get this predictive um justice going out, because they had two really good, well, one really good and then one ended bad, um usings of his ability, where you stopped um a giant cosmic, like galactus size creature from destroying the planet, and then the other one, you successfully predicted when Thanos would come to a research facility, a shield research facility, so you're able to save a bunch of people. And then get your boyfriend killed and your best friend put in a coma. In James Rhodes' War Machine got obliterated by Thanos, and then She-Hulk was thrown in a coma. Um, and yet Captain Marvel still wanted to continue on going. So I will say the weak points were the middle issues, were issues 4, 5, and 6, because it didn't seem like there was a lot that was happening.
That is every Bendis event ever.
Yeah. Well, but not only that, because Bendis also, while he was writing this, was also still writing the Iron Man book. I believe he just wrapped Invincible Iron Man. Was writing Spider-Man, and I think there might have been another book. But it seems like those books, especially the ones for
I was assuming he's doing the Miles Morales Spider-Man too.
Yeah. That's the Spider-Man.
And he had been doing the Guardians books.
Yep, and the Guardians. That was it. The other one, the Guardians of the Galaxy book. He's writing all these, so he is able to spread the story out amongst them all. There was like a good,
because that's the thing that Bendis doesn't have enough of, is room to spread a story out over a 7-issue series that becomes 8 issues by the end of every fucking Marvel event book. We're giving you an extra issue. It's going to take 12 months for it to come out, but fuck it. And you'll see other ramifications in books 3 to 6 months before you actually see the end of its own title. Yeah.
That is the one thing I will give Marvel credit for, where they did give us the extra issue. It didn't seem like it took as long to get to this book, but this one, it felt like a more of a delay because of the artist, and I'm blanking on the artist of the book. But he had some personal issues come up while they were drawing, while he was doing the art. So they actually got a lot of the other artists to help out with this. It was actually my pick for Galactic Radio's pull list 2-3 weeks ago when it came out.
It was David Marquez. And again, I want to point out, every Marvel event seems to have the artist towards the end needs help from other artists to come step in to help catch up, or do pages along the way. Every Marvel event,
but this one was different because
it's not. It's not different. You are in the burning bed right now because you are excusing your abusive boyfriend.
No, so you are saying
no, it means he loves me and he's gonna get better. It's never gonna fucking get better. It's Jaws 4. It started as shit, it remained as shit, it finished as shit, and it was 9 fucking years long.
So you're telling me that because a dude who is drawing a comic book, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a family thing. Like a family thing had gotten in his way.
And if you don't
it's
think
Marvel,
that dude was thrown under the fucking bus and say, you better come out and say it was a family, we have a prepared speech because the guy who wrote the last one had it already written for you. It doesn't fucking matter. Bendis will sign off on it. You'll stutter a lot and pause and sound just like Luke Cage. That's the same fucking deal over. It's like clockwork, and by clocks I mean not a human clock that goes at an actual perpetual motion of time, because they don't. They just fucking trail off. It is ridiculous, and I don't blame if the artist actually had a fucking problem. I'm sorry, man. I get it. I understand. I don't take issue with you. You know what I take issue with? Fucking Marvel and their fucking bullshit editors and the fucking bullshit writers who do this shit every time, knowing full well how it's gonna happen, how it's gonna turn out, and they never change their fucking mentality to like, let's get this in the bag before we fucking start putting it out there, because maybe shit's gonna fall apart at the end and we're gonna pop on an extra issue to a guy who already can't make a fucking deadline every fucking time. When DC can get out a book every 2 weeks for a title consistently for now 6 months or so, and Marvel can't do their biggest fucking event, and their numbers are tanking, even though they charge up to $2 to $3 more an issue for their shit for no extra content. Fuck Marvel. Fuck them in the asshole. And by that, I mean, I'm sorry if you had some family issues.
Yes.
But fuck Marvel. Fuck them in the asshole.
But in all seriousness with this, because I will admit I did not pay for the comics, because I'm a filthy pirate who needs more money to afford to buy all the comics that he wants to read. This is one of those, like, I did enjoy the story. It did have this end to it that did seem a little natural, a little bit natural. They did hint, because you hit on one of the things that Marvel does, where the last issue always gets pushed back to when the book that would premiere outside of it or from it premieres before that book ends. So with this one, it was the Invincible Iron Man, the one with Riri Williams, Infamous Iron Man, the one with Doctor Doom, Champions, which I believe Champions was the one that had it the most. But with where it debuted, or with where it premiered, it seemed like that was the most okay, because the Champions, which if you don't know who they are the Sam Alexander, Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, Amadeus Cho, and Viv Vision,
and Cyclops,
and the young Cyclops. They had all left. Well, the first three had already left the Avengers because of this war, and with their series tie-ins, you see how this affects them. Like, it affected Miss Marvel the most. Actually, well, her and Miles Morales. Just because it's like, we respect both sides. We see where it's coming from both sides. But, like you see in the Miss Marvel tie-in, you could see how it can so easily be twisted into, oh, you're going to jaywalk in a week, let's throw you in jail right now because of that sort of thing. And so they're like, we're done. We quit. You guys bitch and moan amongst yourselves. We're going to go over here and we're going to actually do some good in the world and all that. And that's where,
and which is sort of the opposite tack of what the first Civil Wars had, which was the whole thing happened because of the young heroes, the new warriors that were trying to be celebrities on TV and doing a reality show, got all gung-ho and went and fought somebody who was way outside of their league. They couldn't contain him, and he blew up and destroyed a whole town full of people and killed most of the team. Until they all came back and they turned Speedball Independence, and what kind of bullshit fucking crap. So as a non-reader of this book, because I'm hearing most of all, what this did is it just basically took any kind of empathy for Captain Marvel and destroyed it. Because this is a person who is okay with, or they fucking killed Bruce Banner because of the promise that some shit might happen. The Hulk might go crazy. The Hulk goes crazy all the fucking time, but they all show up there, and then Hawkeye just shoots him in the face. And the fucking shit with Rhodey dying and everything else. It's such utter bullshit, and it makes no sense that there is a acceptance of this. Like, the series starts out, or maybe just before the series, there's a thing where the president is talking to James Rhodes saying, you might be someone that we groomed to be the next president. And then it ends with him saying, well, your boyfriend's dead. How about you, bitch? And to Captain Marvel. And no fucking sense at all. And that's a problem that Bendis has, is he wants to get these ideas out there. These are the notes he wants to hit, but he has no way to make the story equal out to these moments happening. He just force feeds it to you and says, here, eat this shit. I wrote Spider-Man once. It was pretty good. Wish that could happen again. No, fuck you. Fuck you for not understanding what characterization means. Fuck you for not being able to stay true to who these people are. Fuck you for giving us another book where they can't be fucking heroes for 5 fucking pages, except to just stand around and talk to each other for like 9 of them. I just don't get why this shit keeps happening. I don't understand. Like, it's not selling. That's a problem in and of itself. Retailers, comic retailers, are falling apart right now, and they're falling apart because Marvel is continuously pushing out relaunches of books with titles that don't fucking matter. 1,000 Deadpool spin-offs of characters that nobody wants and nobody's going to read, and all of their basic characters are getting replacements. And it's not like I have a problem with the fact that, oh, there's a young black woman who's Iron Man now. Well, okay, I get it. You're trying to introduce something new, but every fucking book is starring somebody else in the role of a main character, except for the one that stars Captain America, where he is part of Hydra. So something fundamentally is fucked up that DC has now turned around and is getting it right. And like, hey, we have all these really great characters that people seem to like way back in the day. We should make those kinds of books again. And Marvel's like, as far fucking from that as possible. Yeah. And it's hurting the industry, and it's hurting the fans. And this continued idea of like, here's this event that's going to lead into what is already announced. The next fucking event, which is the Captain America event, is coming up, which comes out of Civil War II, the giant success shithole that it was, because something happened where Miles beat up Captain America, and that maybe in the future someday, and they all went after Miles Morales. Like, hey, let's go beat up this little kid for maybe doing something to a guy that we just assume is our friend, but we didn't really fucking verify shit. Now, DC has a detective. Yeah. DC has someone who actually like goes out and looks and says, none of this makes a lot of sense. Does Marvel have anybody like that? I would assume it's Moon Knight, and he just goes, I'm white, and runs off into the fucking dark.
No, Moon Knight actually right now is like dealing with like trying to gather his multiple personalities back.
Yeah, I feel like Marvel is doing that too.
Yeah. What I will say is, with your analogy, I do feel like there are some of the writers in Marvel who are trying to turn the ship back around. And I will reference Chip Zdarsky with him taking over the Star-Lord book, because this is Star-Lord stranded on Earth, and doing, trying to have some sort of normalcy while being Star-Lord, but also being grounded because his ship got blown up because, like you would say, Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shit. We had a spaceship and shit when we got here. Anybody got a spare spaceship? What happened to the people who do all the shit with spaceships? It seemed like everybody on this fucking planet had a spaceship at one point, right? Because I've seen you all. I've seen you fucking X-Men go up with a Shi'ar and fight the Brood and stuff in space. I know that the Fantastic Four are fucking gone, but all their shit's in storage, right? Like, I can open up a locker and pull out something that Reed didn't even have to fake, and his fucking 4-year-old daughter could have made some shit that was fucking stellar as fucking crazy. I could maybe borrow bum me a fucking spaceship right now. Tony, oh, you're dead? Oh, comatose? Whatever. I don't fucking know. You comatose, Tony, can make me a fucking spaceship. That's what you fucking do. Or just give me some rocket boots and I'll fly there. I don't give a fuck. No, nobody really in the Marvel universe, no spaceships for the fucking Star-Lord. So I'm just here. I'm just here now with my raccoon friend and a tree. All right. Yeah, sure. This is gonna work.
Yeah. So real quick, this one is gonna be really quick. The other book that I recommend is drawn by Neil Adams. This is a brand new book, drawn by Neil Adams, written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor, and this is Harley Quinn's Little Black Book number 5 of 6. They got, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Neil Adams draw the Superman fighting Muhammad Ali? Or was that
I believe
else?
So. Neil Adams has drawn a lot of stuff over time.
Well, this is Neil Adams and doing the artwork, like I said, but this is Superman and Harley Quinn boxing each other to become champion of the world, and then fighting their captor's challenger to save the world. Um, and good God, I loved this book because where it was longer, it was, I believe, 41 pages long. It was well worth the read, and seeing the art and stuff, seeing it in here, having Harley breaking the fourth wall, where she's addressing the readers and the editors and stuff like that. It was freaking great. And I feel like this would just emphasize everything you said in the rant about Marvel. Um, because it seems like DC is killing it right now, and this is one of the books that they are definitely killing it in. But yeah, and I highly recommend you pick up Harley Quinn's Little Black Book #5. It came out last week, the last week of 2016. But yeah, so that is the ElseViews, and we will be right back. All right, we are back, and it is time for Else Words. And if this is any, if I'd known I could have set Corey off so quickly, I would have made a different Else view. But we're doing it anyways. So a while back ago, I don't even know when Marvel quit doing it, but Marvel would do, when you bought the print edition of their comic book, they would give you a code for the for a digital copy.
Yeah, I can take you back. So a few short years ago, comic books were $2.99 each, and that's not a small expense for what was at the time 24 pages of 22 pages maybe of story. $2.99. It's mathematically, it's an investment. It's not a small investment, especially if you want to get younger readers in, and at the same time, prices for paper were going fucking crazy, and the prices had already just gone up recently. They were like $2.50 for a while. They were $1.99 before that. $2.99 was a pretty hefty price point. And so a lot of people were like, hey, comics are kind of expensive. And I found out that Marvel and DC don't do dick for trying to protect their property. And so for some reason, every Wednesday before they even hit the store shelves, I can find scans of all these comics online on torrent sites and shit. Yep. So I'm just going to read my comics digitally and save myself the $40 I would have spent this week on comic books. Maybe I'll go buy some image shit because it's not as easy to get. I don't know how it works, that the smaller company has better protection of their property than the giant conglomerates of Marvel and DC, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Now, to combat this, Marvel decided what we're going to do is we're going to up the price of our comics by $1. But in exchange, oh, don't get me wrong, you feel like you're getting ripped off. You're probably sort of not. We're going to give you a code, a little sticker in the book that you can peel off. It's got a code on it, and you go to your computer, check it, and you enter in that code, and then you get the digital copy of the comic that you're holding in your physical hands, and this is good for you somehow. Right.
Yeah, so Marvel did that.
DC did it on certain books as an option.
Yeah, I believe Marvel did it with, much like they're doing it now, where it was all of them except for their all ages books.
It started slow. It was like their big sellers, and then it went to everything, and then everything was $3.99, and then they also dropped pages, because then it was also like, oh yeah, well, the $3.99 books will be 24 pages, but the $2.99 books will be 20, and then it's like, oh, the $3.99 books are 20 pages and everything's $3.99 now. Oh, by the way, hey, here's our special issue that's $4.99 because it's a #1, or $5.99 because, hey, you're some bitch. You don't fucking know what you're doing. Just open your fucking wallet, little fanboy. Take it hard. That's what they did.
Yeah,
and so the response. Let me tell you how this worked. so people had their single issues, the ones who fell into line, another brick on the wall, and then they had the codes, and they're like, now I can choose, because I don't fucking need this twice. I can choose to take the code and cash it in for myself, and then sell the fucking issue that I have, because I don't need all that shit sitting around my house. I have an iPad. I can just access these online. And this is also part of what helped Comixology get like more mainstream, is like now these codes actually work somewhere. Or I can sell the code for a couple of bucks online, and I'll have my physical issues, because that's the way I prefer it. I don't know why the fuck this was ever done to me. I wish comics were $2 again. That was apparently not good in Marvel's eyes. Is like, what? No sharing of our books? How the hell am I going to fucking sell you a $50 hardcover of this in a month after it comes out? I mean, the day after it comes out, because the last issue took 3 months to finally hit the stands, longer than it was supposed to. What say you, dumb fanboy fool, that you can't not have an issue and then give an issue of the same? No. We've got a new plan, motherfucker. Gregor,
Yes.
speak unto us the new plan.
So the new plan is, and I am so regretting making this the discussion topic after picking Civil War 2. But Marvel has announced a change to its digital redeem code. You've already told us about the redeem code. Now what it will be is for all the books, excluding all ages books, you will have a code that will give you at least one other digital comic. It doesn't say when, and this is all beginning next month. But it will be, the plan is to offer readers extra content tied to a major Marvel event or series from the past. One of the free digital comics offered in February will be Civil War 2 number 0, in time to promote the Civil War 2 collection on sale that month. Hey, Corey, you're hitting the nail on the head here. But I feel like this is really going to help Discovery, because when I worked at Dollar General, and I had people who come in who would ask about comic books, just because they knew I was a comic book fan. They're like, well, give me some recommendations. And I'm like, okay, easy. Who do you like now that you see it from the movies or from TV or whatever? And they go this, and I'm like, all right, and I will spew off 20 different characters that they should, or 20 different books that they should be reading that may or may not feature that character, but would have that style, or at the very least will have that style from the character that the character is about, sort of that deal. This does that in a way. From what I've seen, what I've read about this does that. What this will do is you pick up an Amazing Spider-Man number 15, I believe, or no, sorry, Spider-Man number 15, I believe is the next one, or no, it's 12, sorry. The one where Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen are kissing on the cover, and in the back of there might be a code for Old Man Logan number 1, and or maybe Spider-Gwen number 1, and like Old Man Logan number 1, just because, and all that. And this to me makes sense, because it's going to help with this. In theory, will help with Discovery. Discovering different characters. Now, yes, it more like what it probably will be happening is it'll be the code will work for, like they gave the example of, in time for this to come out, here's Civil War number 0, and stuff like that. But my hope is that it would be bigger.
So let me tell you why you're wrong. This is Marvel's great idea of, basically they're going to lovingly fuck you in the eye socket, like Negan with Lucille. So here's you. I'm buying a comic. I I've heard good things, probably not, but what? Fuck it, let's say it. I've heard good things about this new Champions comic from Mark Waid, and
I
and
like
and
that book. Thank you very much.
I'm sure it's good. It looks fun. I love Mark Waid, I think it's so good to get all these characters that most of which shouldn't fucking exist in this universe, and put them together in a book and act like it made sense. Sure. I'm reading Champions, and I think that this is a fun book, and it's young characters, and it's aimed at my generation. I'm obviously a millennial of some sort in this situation, and not 45 and bitter. And I think that this is so cool. So Marvel, you are charging me quite a bit for this book that I don't know why it costs so much, because paper, what? And I'm, as a millennial, I don't even want paper. So you're giving me a digital offering, so I get to choose the digital offering from like Deadpool the Duck looks cool. That might be something else I might be interested in. What say you, Marvel? No, fuck you, little boy. I assume little boy because according to Marvel, girls don't read comics, and so no, fuck you in the ass. But not if you're underage, because we're not that kind of people. One person in the industry seems to be. We have decided that instead you will get a comic about a very old man who is like Wolverine except decrepit and full of bullshit, and you will like it. You will suck it down and you will choke on it. And enough said Stan Lee one day. Because now this is Wolverine as old as Stan Lee and looks similar. I don't like this because, one, you don't as a reader get the choice. Two, here's the part that kills me is so they're going to give you Civil War II #0 in this example. Civil War II, which is an event that just finished up, so it's to get you all prepped for the collection that here's what I don't get. That sounds like it's advertising your shit. And you know what you do to advertise your shit? You give that shit away, period. You don't take something away and then act like you're giving something good by giving it back of like, what, here's less than what you had before. Oh, I liked this thing maybe a little bit. I was dealing with it. I was like already in this conundrum of like, I don't want your digital offerings. I want one or the other for a better price, but I fucking dealt with it. And now what you're doing is you're saying, well, this thing that sounded like we pitched as being good for a while, it's not even that good now. If you want to sell Civil War II, you give them, that's an ad. That's an ad. So I'm paying extra for a fucking commercial. No. That's like paying a Hulu subscription for getting average. Oh, wait, no, that happened. All right, I get it now. I get it now, Marvel. I see where you go. New media. I understand. I don't like it. One, it's probably going to be less things, and two, Marvel already does this thing in their collected works where they're like, hey, we only had 4 issues of this book because nobody was fucking buying it, but we do the collections for 6 issues or more. So here's some stuff from 1972 that nobody would ever pay to see printed now. We're going to put it in the back, and we're still going to charge you full price for this thing. I just think that it's such a shit idea in the point in time where we're seeing DC is selling comics for $2.99 and giving you all new content, all new story, and no extra filler that you don't need. You get it all in one thing, and this packaging and this concept of like, it's not a free digital copy. It's not free because you upped the price to give us the digital copy in the first place, and now we're not even getting the digital copy of the book that we wanted to read. And it's if it's a code and like, oh, there's a list of things I can choose from, that is somewhat okay. But if there's only 10 comics to choose from and I buy 20 Marvel books, then I'm going to get fucked anyways, because it's not like I'm not going to run out of things to use codes for.
Now, are you saying up as in they're $3.99 now, they will be $4.99, or?
No, I'm saying $3.99 is a bullshit price for the fucking shit that Marvel puts out. which is 20 pages of story, and then a digital copy that at least used to be the story that you wanted to read. Now it's not even that. Now it's a story that maybe you want to read, but it's a crapshoot. You don't fucking know. You just like, here's shit we can't sell you, because if they could fucking sell it, they would. This is we can't sell you this. You will not buy it, but maybe if you read this one portion, you might buy these other fucking bullshit books too, that are all gonna still cost $4 a pop, even though, you know, you should be buying it in a trade at this point for at least 80% versus the 100% of what it cost. No, you're gonna buy them all digitally online. It's just a sucker bet. It's a sucker bet. No one who has bought into the digital copy thing, and not many people have, but nobody who has is going to be happy about this.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a 1-for-1, if it's like, oh, I bought this and there's some other book that came out this month and I get to use my digital copy for that because I choose that one, that's great. If it's like a 2-for-1, but that's not what this is, because it's a 2-for-none. It's a, I bought this book and you're just kind of like, it's like going into the store and you're buying some peanut butter and you think, oh, sure, yeah, give me a deal on jelly, or give me a deal on bread, or give me a fucking banana, something I can use with my peanut butter. No, here's some motor oil. Peanut butter is oily. It's like the same thing. You should enjoy it. It's a good deal for you. I don't have a car. I have no reason. Can I pour this on your face? Because I feel like that's the only thing I'm left with, is the ability to pour motor oil on your face, and I can just sit and look at you and eat peanut butter while you sit there and just cry. Because that's a good deal for me. That's as far as it can go.
Well, that is about as far as we can go. So glad we took that last week off, because we just saved Corey up. I think if we waited another week, we would have just came on. Fuck you all.
I don't even have oxygen anymore. I'm all sniffly.
But yeah, so you can contact us by a couple ways. You can leave us a voicemail at 805-328-3966, or you can email us at mail@elsenerds.com. I encourage it. Please call us, email us. For at the very least, for what you want Corey to rant about next.
Send me your Marvel digital comics codes, because I know you ain't gonna use them. You ain't a putz.
And you could join us on our Facebook page under Galactic Network, just by going to facebook.com/galacticnetcasts. You could follow the show or follow the network on Twitter at ElseNerds, at Galactic Netcasts. You can follow our producers, Beatmaster at Beatmaster80. Evan is at Mr_Fusion. I am at that Gregor. And Corey, where can they find you for all your mini rants and musings throughout the week?
Well, I don't rant or muse so much as since I come on here and I get to talk shit about other comics companies, it's only fair that I get some shit back. So you can go to don'taskcomics.com and read the comics that I don't necessarily have anything to do with the making of right now, but I do help publish them and get them out there for your enjoyment. They're free. The digital copy is absolutely free and has no expectations of you having to do anything else for it. That's just how it works.
Yeah. And the final thing to be said is this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you guys next week.
Or else fuck you, Marvel.